Can you give us kind of the rundown of these last 2 weeks, how you felt like they've gone, and kind of do you feel like your team's in the mindset you wanted them to be in when they heard yesterday where they're going?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of prognosticators out there on where we'd be. Just, and this doesn't make me an expert by any means, but going through the tournament previously and looking at where things might end up from previous years, we had an idea that we might be out in this, regional and playing a team that I've had some experience with. We watched them go on their run last year and beat a very good University of Minnesota hockey team in the championship game. And so, I mean, our group, I will tell you, the Sting hung around for a while, but I'll credit our leadership group in regrouping our entire roster and saying, hey, you know what? We're going to have to move on to the next one, and this is how we're going to have to prepare for it. We did that together, and I thought those guys have actually done a really good job at controlling what they get to control. The effort, the attitude, the energy that you need to go through something that you haven't been through before. One, getting to the tournament. Two, having the time off. The only thing that we really replicated from or been a part of this before was Christmas break. And so I thought the guys handled that well, and these guys have done a really good job. It's quite a few practices to go through. We took our time when we needed to take it early after playing 3-3. We took a couple days and then went for 3 and took a couple more. And then from that point on, asked the guys to get back on the horse and try and get better. And they've done that.
Talked about the leadership coach. What has Mike Verlicki been like as far as the captain goes this year?
I know I've only got a little bit of time. He's just been a security blanket for the coaching staff. And I think if you asked his teammates, you can't quote me on this because I haven't been in the same situation, but he's probably been the same for them. He's been an incredible conduit between ourselves and the group at staying connected, delivering messages, sometimes that don't always fall on the ears the same way they fall on those ears from a coach. I think there's a lot of trust that's been built up, I can say, from myself and our staff in Mike Verlicki. He helped us get off on the right foot when this first started because he was somebody, him, Matty D. St. Fowl, the group that had been here before, he was okay standing up and taking ownership of what was here and then trying to connect the staff, the freshmen, the transfers, all together so we could get going in the right direction as soon as possible. So for me, I've got a tremendous amount of respect, not only for Michael, the leader, but obviously his family have done a phenomenal job at mentoring a child in the way that they have because Mike Verlicki is going to be successful, hopefully on Friday and in through the weekend. But in anything that he does, whoever gets an opportunity to employ that young man is going to make their business better.
What stands out about, obviously this is a much different team than it was last year for Quinnipiac, but what stands out about those guys and what are you going to have to do to be able to slow them down on Friday night?
Well, they're going to come in with a little bit of attitude. The last time that they were at the plate, it didn't go the way that they wanted it to. And I know Rand, I've known him, ran into him multiple times over the years, whether it's recruiting trail, coaching conversations, competing against his team not that long ago. They're going to be very well prepared, detailed. They've got a lot of bullets in that gun. And what I mean by that is they've got guys that have been there before. They've got players that have played under the lights that these guys are going to be playing on at the regional. Veteran decor, a goaltender that's come in and, after the last goalie was there, I think he signed an NHL contract and moved on. Those are big shoes to fill, and he's done that. And so, for me, we're just going to have to be as prepared as we can be and then try and take advantage of some of the rest and get that rust eliminated as quick as possible, because one thing that Quinnipiac has a history of doing for the most part is they're quick starters. And so we're going to have to be on point from day one. They're very good face-off wise. They're very good power play, penalty kill. The details that they get to control, they're buttoned down. So there's they're going to do what they do. We have to go out and do what we do, and we're going to have to go earn our way into that final 8.
I was going to ask about those details with Rand and Quinnipiac, because you saw that firsthand in 21. You guys have been knocking on that door for quite a while to get a win in the tournament. You got one by coming back against them, if I'm remembering it right. How special was that for you, that opportunity to get a win and then another one the next day? But also, how did you manage to kind of out-detail Quinnipiac, because that seems like is the bread and butter of their program?
You know what? The one thing that they did in going back, what I just mentioned earlier, was their starts. You know, they try to run downhill on you as quick as possible. They're not overly complicated. It's getting in behind your defenseman, and you better find a way to break it out under duress, because they're going to come after you. So that's one. The second thing to your question was, we stuck around. They didn't get it to 3. And we were able to continue to stay in the battle. And then we had a young man, Jake Livingstone, make a play to Cade Borchardt that, earlier in that game, our first goal went off Nathan Smith's skate. It wasn't a pretty picture, but it was Mona Lisa to us, because it gave us some energy and gave us an opportunity to get going a little bit. We pull the goaltender and we have a guy make a play, and then in the Ryan Sandelin finds a way to get that win. It was important for us, because they're not going to beat themselves. You're going to have to go out and do something to beat Quinnipiac, and at this time of the year, that's the way it is.
When you have guys on this roster like Christian and David and Simon that have, played in a game of this magnitude maybe more recently than other guys have, how much do you lean on those guys going into a week like this where things are so different in terms of, bigger travel, more media obligations, and obviously brighter lights once you get to the game?
Yeah, there's guys that have been here prior to the guys you just mentioned, and myself and our staff. There's some guys that have played in an NCAA tournament before, and the one thing that I've liked out of our group from day one up until now is they've been pretty calm at just staying on their dailies and what they get to control. There hasn't been a lot of noise on the outside that has seeped in that has changed how they go about their business. And so, we're going to rely on our leadership group as we have since day one. Now, I do think we do have some guys in there that have been a part of this before, and whether they've been at MSU or whether they've been at the University of Wisconsin, they've done it before. Our guys are just looking forward to playing a game. It's been a long time, and so with the idea, we talk about our first season, which is a regular season. It went pretty well. It didn't finish it exactly the way we wanted, but I thought that body of work is why we're talking about our third season. Our playoffs didn't go the way we wanted it to, and credit to Ohio State. And now we've got something in front of us that we've been planning for all the way back from last late June and July to have this opportunity, and now they want to take advantage of it. They've practiced that way and put themselves in a position to feel mentally strong in the idea that we're going to go out and battle our tails off in an environment that we're excited to be a part of. It's hard to get to this tournament. There's some broken-hearted teams that are sitting back that don't have the opportunity we have. So this is more sunshine than rain, and we're looking forward to it.
Coach, you obviously brought in some guys with you from MSU, and obviously some freshmen have played really, really well this year. But what do you think changed from last year's roster, the guys that stuck around to be with you? What changed that made them so successful this year?
Jocko, I think that's probably a better question for them. I'll give you my opinion on what, from my perspective, the willingness to accept some different things. The willingness for some of those young men to look in a mirror and say, okay, maybe I or we need to be a little bit better. I'm sure it stung those young men when the individual in the group that brought them here to be at this special place, and one of the reasons they're here is because of that decision between themselves, their families, and the program. That's a real sobering experience to go through for a young person. And the reality of what life is can get to you in a hurry, and it did. And I like the way that they reacted to that. Michael, we've talked about, Matty D. St. Phil, really all the guys that were on the roster previously, I thought did a phenomenal job at growing up in a hurry, taking responsibility for what they thought maybe they'd done very, very well, and maybe some things not so much. So credit to that group for allowing that to happen and look in a mirror and then put their arms around the group, the coaching staff, like I said, the freshmen, the transfers, and say, hey, we've all got to go to work if we want to get this to a different spot, and they've done that.
Are you as healthy as you can be almost 6 months into a season? And would the last 2 weeks help that out? Any concerns with anyone moving forward?
Yeah, you know what, we are. We are. It's one where, at different times over this time frame, because of what had either happened previously or as we're going through our journey here in the last, 17, 18 days of trying to get it to the point. We've tried to manage that. I think Rhodes, our trainer, has done a phenomenal job, Tommy Inkrot, at getting us to that point. So I feel very, very good that we'll have everybody, knock on wood, we'll have everybody available once that puck drops.
You had mentioned earlier how you would describe the team as being pretty calm, but then you also said guys are excited to finally go back out on the ice and play a game. What's the energy been like this week or, so far leading up to the big game against Quinnipiac?
Really good. And I'm usually the pessimist, not the optimist. I think the way coaches are built. The guys have been really good at coming to the rink, and they haven't spit the bit at all, knowing that we've got a long way from where that last game was played to what's going to happen on Friday, and taking it and looking at it and saying, okay, let's go. Whether that's been our workouts in the mornings to our ice sessions. And we need to finish that. We've still got some dailies here that we've got to take care of before that puck drops on Friday. But the guys they've been really excited about, how can you not be? When you're one of 16 teams playing at this time of the year, it's a goal you have going all the way back to the summer. You want to take advantage of the opportunity that you have. And so their energy's been very good. They've been willing to put in the work.
When you look back at the stretch that you had in November, December, January, when you had the winning streak, was there something in that stretch of time that you can pick out and say, we need more of that now when we get into a one-game shot where, there's no more margin for error? We need to be back at something like that. Anything that stands out to you?
Well, first of all, I'd say health. When knock on wood, we were healthy throughout that, pretty much that entire time. And then we had a couple of guys go down, and we had guys even through the end of that stepped in, played well. I just thought we were consistent from start to finish. We won some close games that hopefully we can continue to draw from that experience, where later on we had some things where we had to look in the mirror as a coaching staff and an entire group, and where people just in this league said, you know what, enough. We've had enough of you. We're trying to do what we're trying to do. And the one thing about hockey, more often than not, it humbles you. And that happened to us, and we had to look in the mirror. And I've liked the way the guys have managed their time and going through a painful experience, which sometimes prepares you better for your next opportunity, and we need that to happen.